And everybody wanted me, and they wanted a Bronx Tale, the one-man show, because they wanted to make it a movie. But they didn't want me. They wanted to put a star in the role. They said, look, you're a great actor, but nobody knows who you are. And I said, well, I play Sonny, and I write the screenplay, or nobody gets it. They said, we'll give you $250,000. I had $200 in the bank. I said, let me talk to you tomorrow. Let me think about this. I thought about it, and I said, no, I want to play Sonny. I want to write the screenplay. They said, forget it. I went right back to doing the show. Crowds kept getting bigger. 3 weeks later, they called back and offered me $500,000. Again, $200 in the bank. I refused. I said, I'm sorry, I won't do it. They said, are you crazy? People in Hollywood thought I was crazy. Again, I went back to the show. More reviews came out, more crowds came in. Jack Nicholson came, Pacino came. All these, Burt Reynolds came at that time. All these actors wanted to play Sonny. And I wouldn't let nobody touch it but me. So again, they called me, a different studio, and I was signed with William Morrison at the time. And they offered me $1 million. I looked at them and I said, I'll never forget it. We're sitting around this big table. They said, Chaz, if you sign this paper, you have a check for $1 million tomorrow. And I said, is there a bathroom here? And they said, yeah, right over there, the executive bathroom. I said, give me 5 minutes. I walked into the bathroom, I shut the door, I put water on my face, I put my hand in my pocket, and I took out a card that said, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent. That's a card that my father wrote. And I looked at it, put it back in my pocket. I went back inside and I said, I'll sign that paper. And I could see they were all kind of smiling. I said, but I play Sonny and I write the screenplay. And the guy just put his head down. He said, Chaz, you're a wonderful actor, but we cannot make a big movie with you. No one knows you. I said, well, then I can't do it. And he said, you're going to walk out of here with $1 million check? And I said, absolutely. He said, you know this movie won't get made. And I said, you're right, with you. But sooner or later, somebody will make it. And he said, why is that? I said, because it's just too damn good. Somebody will do it. And I walked out. And 2 weeks later, I was doing the play, the one-man show. And I get off stage, and somebody comes over to me and says, hey, Robert De Niro is waiting for you in the dressing room. I said, De Niro? He said, yeah, he just saw the show. He wants to see you. So I go downstairs, I walk into my dressing room, De Niro's sitting there. And I said, hey, how you doing? And he looks at me and says, that was a great show, man. That was the greatest one-man show I ever saw. He goes, how did you do that? I said, well, I had this idea of playing all the characters. And he said, listen, I want to make this a movie. And I'll tell you how crazy I was. I said, well, okay, Bob, but listen. He goes, I know. You want to play Sonny and you want to write the screenplay. I said, that's right. He said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I think you should play Sonny. You'll be great as Sonny. And you should write the screenplay because it'll be about your life. He goes, I'll play your father and I'll direct it. And we'll go partners. And if you shake my hand, that's the way it'll be. I shook his hand, and that's the way it was. So I wanted to tell you how that's how it happened, how this whole thing happened. De Niro, sir, he trusted me, and you know, he gave me my break. It was my big break. I mean, I got on Broadway, and we're going to ask a question, in 1982. That was my first part. And it's a funny story, which I'll tell you. In 1982, I got a part as an understudy. I was understudying the lead on Broadway. So the guy at the end that you saw in the movie Carmine, that guy Carmine, obviously was Joe Pesci in the movie. But the real guy was alive in 1982. And he said to me, you know, Sonny died, and he took over. And he said, I hear you're on Broadway. funny story. So I said, yeah. He goes, oh, we want to come and see you. I said, well, you really can't. And he said, why? I said, he goes, what's the matter? You're embarrassed? I said, no. I said, I'm an understudy. And he said, what's an understudy? I said, well, if something happens to the guy, then I go on. Not realizing what I just said. And I said, I'll see you later, come. And I turned, I walked away. 5 minutes later, he comes walking over to me. He says, hey, C. You know, he's always calling me C. Hey, C, come here. So I walk over. And I said, what's up? And he grabs me by the elbow and he goes, you want to go on? And I said, excuse me? I didn't know what he meant. He says, do you want to go on? I want to go on. And then I realized what he was saying. And I said, no, you can't do that. No, come on, please. And he goes, don't worry, we'll make it look like a mugging. Nobody's So I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I said, please don't do that. So that night, you know, as an understudy, you have to watch the show. And the guy who had the lead in the play, he was a real ass, and he treated me terrible. He was like I was his understudy, you know, and he treated me like that. But I was sitting in the back of the theater, and I was watching the show, and I was sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and I'm saying, man, you don't know how lucky you are. I said, you don't know how lucky you're. Lucky I'm a nice guy, pal. So I always like to tell them, you know, I grew up with these guys. And they were fun guys, but I mean, was it dangerous? Yeah. But I was never in the mob. People always say, were you in the mob? I go, no. I was never in jail. I went to college. My father and my mom put me on the straight road, you know. But it was a very interesting time. And I've done 60 movies, and I'm really the guy who is known for Bronx Tale. So it's kind of a remarkable thing, and I don't mind talking about it. It's my life. My father was a bus driver. We used to go to City Island, just like you saw. And I think the movie works because it's from the heart. Everything is true, and it's from the heart. And it was important to me to talk about racism in the movie because I grew up, and I was always like, I was colorblind, you know, I didn't care what you were. And I thought it would be important to talk about racism because I was dating Jane in 1968. And that was when Martin Luther King was assassinated and Robert Kennedy was assassinated. And it was a really crazy time back then. And I wanted to show how racism is bred down from one generation to the next. How the boy says, hey, my father told me that's how it starts. And when the other one says, well, my father told me, you know, they're not bothering nobody. It was a simple thing that I wanted to show. And so the story with Jane and with Sonny and with my father, I don't know, it just, the way I wrote it and weaved it in together just seems